Hi, Marcos.
Hi, Carlos. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Really good to see
Good.
you.
I know. This is gonna be fun. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, you too. Well, I'm really excited about this live, but not only because I'm working with you, but also because of the context. Like doing something for the Pride Month is really exciting, and it touches me really deep. So, so I'm really happy about this.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for asking me. Is it so when is your Pride? Is it your Pride month is this month as well in Spain?
Yeah, it's the same.
Cool. This
Yeah.
weekend?
Yeah, pretty much because you
Awesome.
guys have it on the 28th, but we also celebrate on the first Saturday of July. So we have like
Okay.
two.
Okay, nice. Awesome. So I'm excited to start. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look to you for leadership. So
Oh, no way. But how about we start talking about ourselves, what we do? Maybe I can start and then you start and then we start working.
yeah, totally.
Okay. So for those who don't know me or don't know my work, my name is Carlos Rodríguez Casado, and I'm an illustrator from based in Spain. And my work is usually it's always based on character portraits. I mostly work for press, and I try to mix watercolor textures that to recreate realistic skin tones or skin effects, and play with some distortions. That's pretty much what I'm doing. And in this live, I'm gonna be portraying one of my favorite LGBT icons, who is Cristina La Veneno, and I'm gonna tell you guys bit more about her. So now, your turn.
Hi, I'm Marcos Chin. First, thanks Domestika, thanks Carlos, for inviting me. And you're gonna notice that I keep on looking this way. It's because um, that's where he is on my desk. So and that's where you are too. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us. A little bit about myself. I live in New York City. I've been here for about 16 years. I freelance as an illustrator, but I also teach illustration and drawing at the School of Visual Arts. Um, like Carlos, a lot of the work that I've done is rooted in press, editorial, magazines. I do advertising, but I've also done, and I'm sort of moving towards doing work that is more or less off the printed page. That's something that I'm becoming more interested in. So more sort of larger murals, three-dimensional pieces, that type of thing. And one of the things that runs through the work that I do is the fact that my pictures tell stories in some capacity, or tonight, depending where you live. The icon, the LGBTQ plus icon I chose is RuPaul Charles. Yeah, so, and I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, are familiar with who that is. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, so maybe we can start now, and this way we have more time to.
Yeah, I know. I feel like because Carlos and we've been chatting for a while through
Yeah.
WhatsApp. So
Yeah. Well, I have to say, well, I'm a really big fan of your work, but I really like what you said that you tell stories through your work, and that's something you can really see. I was going to ask you, because you have this beautiful sketch, and you did that. You work directly with the computer, or maybe you try with pencil first.
yeah, that's a good question. One thing that one of the reasons why I felt like this was going to be a really great collaboration conversation is because we work so differently.
Hmm.
And even though my sketches usually begin analog, and then I take a photo or I scan it in, and then I do this level of sketch that you're seeing right now using Procreate. But my finished version is mostly vector using Adobe Illustrator, which is what you're seeing right now.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
very, very time consuming.
I like to know you post a lot of your processes on Instagram, and that's beautiful for me to see, because usually I work with very little time and I don't have time to like make a sketch, and then I did this time I tried to work on this one before, and then I transferred
Okay.
it to the paper, but it's pretty much the same mess of lines. and
Okay.
I and I like to give it shape with watercolor. So the tools you're gonna be using are Adobe Illustrator, right?
Yeah, and I'll just pull the toolbar in here so you can see it. But it's
Oh,
this one right here. It's the pen tool. Some people have asked me if I use like the pencil tool and do sort of a freehand drawing, but I don't. If you can see what I'm doing right now, maybe I'll change the color so you can see it even better. But
yeah.
I literally go, dot by dot. It's a glorified connect the dots. That's why it takes so long.
Okay, okay. Wow, and you just, maybe it's my impression, but you just made it blurry, like the sketch, to see more, to see the dots better, right?
I changed the color of the dots right here. So
Okay,
that's
okay.
what I like to do sometimes in Adobe Illustrator. You can actually change the color of your points, so that you can see them more easily.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
it's definitely, I went to school, to art college, and we did have software there, Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, but um, we didn't have to take those classes, and it was so new for us back then, for me, that I didn't really engage with it. And so, eventually, when I stumbled upon Illustrator again, I really sort of decided that I wanted to learn more about it. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I basically spent a lot of time trying to teach myself how to use it.
I feel so much respect that you can do the stuff you do with Illustrator, because it's a nightmare for me. I tried, and it's
But
a
it
nightmare.
is a nightmare. But I want to hear more about yours as well, because I mean, like looking at what you did, you transferred your sketch, but you don't do graphite transfer, or you don't print it on watercolor paper. Like, what do you do?
Well, this time I just did a messy sketch on graphite. Sometimes I use
Ah,
watercolor pencils so that when you go with the water, it melts and you don't see the traces of the pencil. But I
ah,
don't mind the initial sketch, sketch, sorry, to show up. I feel like it's like the skeleton of the drawing, and that's kind of fun. But I only work with watercolor, and for example, in my courses on Domestika are watercolor courses, because that's the only technique I use.
mm,
And yeah, but if you see, maybe I can put the camera closer now that I'm working on the face. Uh,
yeah.
if you see, the lines are not very precise. I try to make the drawing more clean,
Okay.
just with the pencil. So I start with the details, and then I add some finishing layers to make everything more homogeneous.
Do you
Or
use any like Frisket or any masking fluid? I see like there's a piece of paper,
oh,
probably like you don't want to like make the drawing dirty, right?
well, you could use that, and that's a technique that a lot of people use, but I like to save, it's like to save the whites, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in my case, I like to save them like by hand, but yeah, that's a really, maybe I just like to make it complicated.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So Marcos, you chose RuPaul for your, as one of your favorites LGBT icons, if not your favorite, and the one you wanted to draw for this live. So tell us some more about the reasons why you chose her, maybe what she means to you.
Yeah. I mean, this was hard, like when we spoke about it for the first time, I really didn't know who to choose. Um, I could have chosen so many people. I went out dancing the other day and I was thinking, oh, but I also really love Lady Gaga,
Ah,
and having seen the portrait that you like, the beautiful portrait that you did of hers, there's so many people, but RuPaul for me, I think RuPaul's been around for a very long time. When I was a little boy, living at home with my parents, I even remember seeing, her first video, Supermodel. And
uh,
then, yeah, and she started to ascend after that, in the media. And as I was so young, but I obviously knew that I was not straight from a very young age. And seeing RuPaul on television in that capacity, just expressing in such a confident and a fun way, for me, even though I probably didn't know it at that point, I think it really impressed me and affected me, in a way where, yeah, it made me curious, And throughout the years, I think what she's done is, really elevate not just drag, but I think really sort of elevate humanity, encouraging listening, conversation about things that I think a lot of people, including myself, felt sort of ashamed about. And with RuPaul's Drag Race and her work for, LGBTQ plus rights, it really, for me, was kind of a no-brainer. And this particular version of RuPaul, because, we talked about, she has so many looks. And this one here is not necessarily a specific look, but the outfit is. It refers to the March on Washington, D.C. in 1993, where there were about 1 million people who went there to rally and protest LGBTQ plus rights, people's rights. And so I thought this would be so appropriate for today's live drawing session, and considering it is Pride Week, Pride Month. It just made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's a great story, and we were talking about this just a few minutes ago, and I didn't know, when I saw it, I was like, maybe you want to make it as a glam zone, because I know you're very symbolic, like when in your illustrations, and as you said, you like to tell stories, but I didn't know it was referring to a specific outfit, and I like it. It's very powerful. The pose, everything. It's very powerful, and also I must admit that when you told me that you wanted to pick RuPaul, I'm very excited, because I'm a fan of drag queens, and I'm a fan of RuPaul, and a fan of Drag Race, and I think you just explained it really well, that she made popular some stuff that were very difficult to understand at the time, but a lot of people can feel identified with that, and it's been a beautiful labor what she's been doing.
Yeah, I think so too, and for so long as well. I think it's just pretty incredible and awesome that it's become what it is now. And because I really don't foresee it stopping anytime soon. I just feel like it just keeps on expanding to different countries, and there's different versions, etc. So
absolutely, and also a lot of different versions of drag, and different versions of gender expression, which is beautiful. Like now you see, you don't only see feminine impersonations, you can see gender fluid people, or just people who break these gender rules, if that's a way to put it, and that's beautiful to see. It's a lot of freedom,
which kind of like connects to your icon, who I know nothing about. And that's why I kind of didn't, when you told me about her, I wanted to do some research, and I was like, wait, I want to use this time and space for you to tell me who La Veneno is, right? Yes.
That's it. Well, it's great that you're because it's like a real-time reaction.
Yeah.
Actually, I cheated, because I tell you I'm gonna tell you, when we made like this, we have like this little reunion to speak about our icons, and I was like, I'm gonna tell you everything about her, and I didn't tell you anything in the end. We started talking, so now is the time. Okay, so Cristina La Veneno, her name was Cristina. She was a transsexual woman that was really famous during the 90s in Spain. The thing is that my character is very controversial. Sorry that I'm struggling a bit with my English, but I really hope I make justice to the character by telling her story. So she was she was born in the south of Spain, and she moved to Madrid, and the only option at the time for many transsexuals was to do the streets, and she worked as a prostitute. So that's why it was very controversial that she gained some fame, because she was interviewed at one show, and then she became huge. Like the audience rised so high that they wanted her in the show. And she was so unapologetic. She was like very proud of being a prostitute, of being a transsexual, and that in the 90s was really something really new, because we had a lot of we had other personalities speaking about the reality of transgender people, but she brought it to light, to
Mm.
the public space, and the thing is that she's got a very tragic story, because for some events in her life she was imprisoned, and she was sent to a men's prison, and she was treated as a man. She
Wow.
suffered like a very extreme physical change, and she was pretty much a broken toy of television. And now she passed away in 2016, but she gained some attention back again, because Los Javis, which are two Spanish directors, made a biopic of her life,
Mm.
and it's became really huge. Now it's on HBO for
Mm.
everybody to watch it, like wherever you are, wherever country you live. And it's a beautiful story, because even if this woman was like very incorrect at the time, and it's still very controversial, because the expressions she used, how she was so rebel,
Mm.
and stuff like that. That makes her a very difficult to understand icon. But I believe that her importance nowadays is that icons don't need to be perfect. Like, trans people needed to have representation in on the
Mm-hmm.
media, and she made that happen. Even if she didn't know she made it happen. So I think that's why I chose this icon. And also, she was really, really funny, so I love her
Oh,
expression. Yeah.
okay.
In Spain, we use a lot of her expressions still, and yeah, she made a really huge impact on the pop culture.
Wait, so how, like, through like you said a show, so was it like a singing performance, one person show, like a live, like was she in the movies? Like how did it
Yeah.
present?
No, it was like in the 90s. I don't know if it was
Uh-huh.
1996 or 1997.
Okay.
Some shows were trying to imitate the American late night shows, and there was this journalist who went to a park where prostitutes used to work, and she found her, and then she made a
Oh,
tribute to her, and she was so funny, and so like so special. She had like a lot of charisma, that
okay.
everybody was like, who is this woman? And they tried to find her again. They brought her to the show and gave her a job there, so she was
Oh,
like the
wow.
muse of the show. Yeah. So
Oh,
so
that's so cool.
yeah, pretty much she was a vedette, if that's a word you use.
I don't know.
Okay, well, like a model, or like a television person.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing, I'm looking at what you're doing. She's looks gorgeous.
Oh,
You
she
work
was.
so fast.
I
You're
have
working
to
so
because
fast.
I have to, because as I said, I love to make it difficult. So I chose the whole composition. If you let me show the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm having this. She was very eager to show her body on
Mm,
on TV, and all her outfits were like very revealing. So I
okay.
just used a lot of stuff to like give her some context, and I'm using some elements like the spiders, which are on the cover of her memoirs, because one of her expressions, what's the word again? Tarantula in English?
Tarantula. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, so she used it as an insult, and it became really, really. It was very funny the way she used it, and now it's like on the pop culture. So I remember that on the cover of the book of her memoirs, before she passed away, they included a lot of tarantulas, because it's like
Okay.
something very related to her expressions. And also this one this thing I'm gonna paint over here. This one I don't know the word in English, and I'm sorry, I should have googled it before the live.
Oh,
It's,
well, that's the beauty of computers. We have it right here. I'm just kidding. Wait,
No,
you
but
said it's a flower, right, or something?
over here, I'm gonna paint some flowers that are
Mm,
the typical flower of Madrid, because that's
mm.
where she lived and where she became famous and everything. And this thing over here is an instrument to work the land. It's something like to cut the wheat. Um,
Oh yeah, it's called a scythe.
so
It's like
how's it
a
go?
like that,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly,
it's like a crescent shape, right? Yeah,
exactly.
it's called a
Yeah,
scythe.
because that's what she when she was working
Wow,
in the street.
that's dark.
Yeah, that's what she had on the back to defend herself, from.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty much in her symbology.
Huh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
That's cool how you're like adding, you're adding these visual elements that give sort of like that sort of lift her narrative.
But honestly, I decided to do it because I'm working with you, and I know you do that a lot, and I'm like, I want to be like I want to be at the, what's the word? Never mind. I'm trying to translate an expression, but it's gonna get lost in translation. So
No, say it. I
like
mean, you speak two languages, so
like when you say you want to be at the height of one person, of another professional, like, is that an expression like that in English?
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, how would you say? Um, hmm, I'm not even sure if I know an expression that describes that, but I know exactly what you mean.
It was a joke.
Um, but yeah, but you mentioned with when I was doing RuPaul, like you talked about the glamazon, and you're right about that because another, and I think it's an LGBTQ um, icon is Wonder Woman. And
Oh,
so that's why, I did this, like I decided to, refer to this particular look of RuPaul's too, because, I love Wonder Woman as well. And so the combination of the two really made sense for me, especially, again, as a kid. I saw I think it was the late I'm a lot older than you, by the way. I could be your young uncle, but
I wouldn't tell. I wouldn't have told.
yeah. So in the 70s, in the late 70s, when I was really, really, really young, I remember seeing the first Wonder Woman TV show with Linda Carter.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was hooked right from the beginning. And I know I'm drawing RuPaul, but talking about Wonder Woman. But yeah, I hope that's okay. But um,
It is.
I,
Amazing.
yeah, when I was little, I would put on my dad's sweater. Like he had a big cardigan sweater,
Yeah.
and I would turn around and then kind of like spin in circles and then have the sweater fall off onto the ground because
Ah.
when because when she turned into Wonder Woman, she would spin in circles and then she would, turn into the superhero.
That
So
is amazing. I think I'm gonna try and do that right when we finish. Even
so
listeners
yeah.
can do it.
So there is meaning, there is meaning to this. And like, yeah, it definitely is not an accident. I really had to think about it because I could have just, you know, I really could have, chose so many people. And and also I had finished watching the new season of Pose.
Oh,
Um, yeah. And so again, it's like, who do you choose? Who do you choose? And so, yeah, I kind of
yeah.
went back and forth on
This
it, on it.
it's a beautiful like a beautiful symbology you have behind your illustration. By the way, I'm very surprised. I'm watching, and I'm very surprised that you start with flat colors, but in the end, your illustrations are so alive. I can wait to see like how it gets to that.
Well, I don't know if you're going to see because my process takes a long time. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to finish within the time, but what I do know is that I will finish it and I'll post the final for everyone to see. And I
Yeah.
think, to your point in terms of, what you're seeing right now, as I
Mhm.
zoom out, It's all, there's right now over here, you can see there's only 2 layers, but as I progress, and if this were an illustration that had many more things in environment and foreground, background, middle ground, that type of thing, then I would have even more layers upon layers.
Okay.
But I simplified this a little bit, and only because for the sake of time, but
Yeah.
still, in order to get to that place that you're talking about with textures and you know,
Mhm.
making the drawing not feel like it's maybe made from out of vectors. I bring it
Okay.
into Photoshop, and
Okay.
I mix it with like hand textures and that kind of thing.
Okay, okay. I see. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
Wow. I wish I could see that, but you take your time, and I'm gonna take mine too because we both chose something quite difficult to make in an hour. So it's all right. It's better. I think it's better to work without the gun in your head. Like even if
yeah.
we finish, it's okay because we're talking. We're showing our processes, and we're also speaking about people who are people who come to your mind, especially in this month.
Hmm.
A month. So if anybody watching didn't know RuPaul or La Veneno, I hope they Google them up because they're really interesting icons.
Yeah, I mean, you said that the biopic is going to be on HBO International, right?
Yeah, it is already. Yeah,
Oh, it is already. Okay, cool. Yeah,
yeah.
then I can definitely watch it.
By the way, RuPaul watched it.
What? What do you mean?
RuPaul watched it and she tweeted something about it, and the actors and the actresses of Pose, they watched it. I remember MJ Jackson was saying,
Oh,
"La Veneno changed my life," and she posted a video.
really? So
Yeah,
is the title of the movie her name, essentially? It's just a
Veneno.
biography of? Oh, Veneno.
Veneno.
Okay.
That's the name of the show. It's beautiful.
Oh,
You're gonna cry.
oh, yeah, I cry easily, so yeah.
Me too.
I
Well,
have some big emotions, so.
I have a soft spot, I must admit. I am. I think it's is there a show or a specific movie or something like this? Do you have any movie or show you like to watch on the when Pride is coming closer? Because I have a soft spot for Paris is Burning.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen that a couple of times actually.
yeah, it's really really
Um, yeah. So that wait, so I cut you off, but you said so that's your go-to movie around this time?
yeah.
Cool. So you have like friends who come over and everything?
It's pretty much me watching it,
Okay.
but if anybody's interested, I'm really, I discovered that movie when
Okay.
I was traveling to New York. I went to an exhibition that was talking about the ballroom culture and everything, which is something that the show Pose speaks about. And
Hmm.
I'm so interested. It was fascinating to me.
I really, really, really love Paris is Burning. Uh, a couple of years ago, around Pride Month, so I live in Brooklyn. So I'm New York City, but I live in Brooklyn,
Okay,
and I live near a park. It's called Prospect Park,
okay,
and sometimes in New York City, it's not just Prospect Park, but I'm sure it happens everywhere or in different cities as well. But they have outdoor viewings or like of movies,
ah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so Paris is Burning was one of them.
Wow,
I didn't see it, but I've seen that movie a couple of times, and yeah, it was when all of this was happening. I was, really young. Um, I'm not a very good dancer, but I've always wanted to go. I've always wanted to, go to a party.
yeah,
Um, uh, but yeah, I've never done it, but there's just something about it. The energy, the expression, obviously the dancing. I love fashion,
yeah,
but not just fashion. The way in which they put together the outfits, I think, require a lot of creativity. And so all of that stuff is, you know, is the reason why I love, you know, ballroom culture so much. I have friends who, you know, go and dance and, you know, but I've never personally been. But back to, you know, Paris is Burning, it's definitely is one of the movies that I really love.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. And I think, you know, I'm also fascinated by ballroom culture, but I also feel like that is something so attached to this month, because in ballroom culture, like it has an origin, and it's very important to respect the roots, but
Mhm.
everybody fits, you know, and everybody is celebrated, and that's I feel like that's the spirit of Pride.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah. And I even remember because when it was happening, you know, I was probably a teenager. And so, you know, for me, it's amazing kind of like how there's things in your periphery, in your spaces, you know, growing up where it kind of just, they're almost like doors. They kind of
Mhm.
like allow you to have a peek
Mhm.
into maybe who you could be, or maybe your future self, because maybe at that moment you don't feel too comfortable with who you are. And so movies like that, that we talked about, and, you know, spaces like, you know, dance clubs, like for me specifically, you know, I know this is true of, you know, many of my friends and, you know, queer people, but just being in, you know, the queer
Mhm.
clubs, the gay clubs, and the bars, for me, you know, that was important. It was a safe space. It allowed me
Mhm.
to, you know, express in ways that, you know, I never felt comfortable or safe to do. And so, yeah, I know I'm kind of changing the topic. I didn't mean to.
No, 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 no,
Yeah.
it's great. I love what you're saying. I feel like it's beautiful that now that we have this speaker that we talk about this stuff, because we still need to have safe spaces. But the thing is, Pride is a safe space for everybody. Like no discrimination fits the spirit of Pride. And I was gonna ask you something. You pretty much responded already, but I was gonna ask you, like, what was your, if maybe it's a bit too personal, but what was your how did you feel the first time you went to the Pride?
Oh, when was that? So that was probably 20 years ago. Oh my gosh. I have these moments when I'm talking to you where I feel so old. but but I was in my I came out when I was in my mid 20s, and the first time, yeah, and sure, yeah, the first year that I came out, I went to my first Pride parade.
Mhm.
Um, I think I may have even been in it. Like I
Wow.
was, yeah. So your question is like, what did it mean to me back then, or how did I feel, right?
Yeah.
I felt, you know, it's interesting because so my ethnicity is Chinese, and I'm
Mhm.
from, even though I live in New York, Brooklyn, I'm from Toronto, from Canada.
Mhm.
And when I was, and there's like a large Chinese population there, more specifically from Hong Kong. And growing up, I had a lot of Asian friends, and I also volunteered for uh, Asian community organizations, and one of them um, was an organization called ACAS. It's called Asian Community Aid Services, and basically they did outreach, educating people about the importance of safe sex. And there also was a kind of like a sibling group called Gay Asians Toronto, and I was part of that as well. And so that was all in the first year when I came out, and I remember feeling really. I mean, I felt I was kind of just going with the flow, but I felt really grateful to have come across and made friends with people from um, the queer community, specifically the gay Asian community. And
Yeah.
they had a float during Pride. And I just decided to, walk with them. It was really, I have to say to you, like, it was very uncomfortable. I was afraid because I hadn't come out yet. I came out to
Wow.
myself. I hadn't come out to my family. Someone from who was watching the parade, who I went to high school with, saw
Mhm.
me and told a friend of mine that she had seen me,
Mhm.
because I hadn't come out to them as well. And so it was just like a lot of sort of complicated emotions around that time, So I know I'm
Wow.
kind of talking in this kind of like meandering way, but yeah, that's kind of, how I felt. It was really beautiful though. It was very exciting.
Wow, I think it's beautiful. I didn't know what you were gonna answer, but I feel
Me
very
neither.
identified. To be honest, me neither. Like I'm like I wanted to make this question, but I didn't know what to say myself, and even in English, which is even
Okay.
harder to translate. You know what I think, but it's beautiful, and I feel like it was very brave of you, even if you hadn't come out to your closest ones.
Hmm.
I mean, when you're discovering the way you are, you you face the need of finding the places where you're gonna be accepted, and
Hmm.
maybe that's what was going on for you.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, technically, I haven't even come out to my father.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's like it happens. We all have our pace and time to do things, and our level of comfort is all different, and we have different histories and situations. So, but how about you? Like, when was your first parade in attendance or participation or witnessing?
wow, you know what, you just made a really you just gave me a really honest answer, so I'm gonna try to do the same. Because
Yeah.
this the story, I think it was different during the years, my idea of pride, and the way I saw pride, because the first time I saw pride, I'm from another city in Spain, but I moved to Madrid
Mm,
when I was 18. And the first time I was so I don't know, I felt like so out of place, like really, really out of place, because maybe as a gay kid, you're used, or you expect discrimination because you've been through it, so you expect people to look at you, or to say things about you. That was my background. So I thought that was what I was gonna find, and I felt like really out of place. But
mm,
the struggle was in me. It was not about the festivity or the pride itself. With the time, I remember there was a very special pride celebration. I can't
mm,
remember the year. Maybe it was 2014, I think,
mm.
and I was 21, and I had been through my first relationship, and also my first breakup, and I was talking. Yeah, no, I mean, it was we're actually good friends still, but back then I remember it was a very, very strange time for me, like too many emotions coming all together. And I remember I was talking to this guy who was a friend of my friends. I didn't really know him, but we were waiting for some other friends to come, and um, I don't know. Sometimes it's like very easy to open up with strangers, and I was telling him about these mixed feelings I had, and then how I saw everybody celebrating love out there, and I wasn't know how I was feeling, about my own experiences.
Mm.
And he told me, like listen to the music, listen to the lyrics of the songs, the gay, um the sorry, I'm just struggling with the language. Like, when you go to a gay club or to a gay
Mm,
party, the lyrics
mm.
of the songs mostly talk about freedom, about how you have to defend the way you are, you have to fight for your rights, for being the way you want to be. And
Wow.
it's like, I remember that time. Um, I
A
really,
stranger told you this?
yeah, and I
Wow. That's
I
a
paid attention to the music, and it was amazing. I felt like I was part of a community for the first time,
Uh-huh.
and I felt like that was a pride. Like that's the pride the way I see it.
Nice. Wait, so when you moved from where you were originally, from or lived to Madrid, you said, right?
Yeah,
Was it a far, like, was it a cultural shock? Were the cities very, very different? Like,
pretty
did you
much.
have a community?
Back in my city, you mean?
Yeah, or I know you said you were part of the community after that sort of conversation with the stranger, but when you arrived in Madrid, did you have any community or anyone to sort of like go to, or do you know what I'm trying to say? Because when
Yeah.
I came out, for example, I'm from Toronto, but I lived in the suburbs. I lived in Scarborough, which is just a subway ride away. So it was still Toronto.
Yeah.
Um, but you literally switched towns, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean, and honestly, at that time, I didn't have like a community like what you said about this group you were marching with
Mm,
on the Pride,
mhm,
the gay Asian kids and everything. I didn't
mhm.
have I didn't have a group like that, and I think it's maybe I just didn't know it was an option. So I
Oh,
think
interesting.
it's beautiful that this stuff exists, and they have to be a reference. But for me, the thing I did, my town has changed very much, very much.
Mm,
But when I was a kid, of course, just like any gay kid, I guess I faced a lot of homophobia, or maybe I had to, like, I had the need of hiding. And when I came to Madrid, I was like, this is a different place. Just try to come out to everybody. So
mm. Oh, interesting.
everybody I met already knew it. And
Huh.
the reaction was so natural, like it was, because in my city, maybe it was a weird thing back then, not now
Mm,
anymore,
mm,
but
mm.
back then it was. And in Madrid, it was so natural that it just made me feel natural about it too. So that kind of helped.
Wow, that's interesting because mine was not that way at all. It took me a long time to come out.
Yeah.
Stages of coming out. I was very afraid.
Yeah.
I also was really adamant about not doing it too quickly because of fear. So when I came out, you know, it was like I came out to specific people who I trusted a little bit at a time. And with my family, who I also like, I didn't feel safe even coming out to my family, but it
Hmm.
took me about maybe like 5 or 6 years, to do that as well. So it's interesting that you were able to really sort of like express, in a big way in a space. But I'm wondering, do you think it's because everything was so new
Hmm.
for you that you didn't have to maybe think about how certain people would react because everyone was kind of like a stranger?
Exactly, exactly. And
Okay.
I came to Madrid in the context that I was a student, and everybody was coming from other cities, because they say maybe it's like in New York. Like in New York, no one's from New York. Also in Madrid,
Yes.
like you find people from all around the globe, and we were all students. Everybody wanted to make nice. It was a good kind
Mm,
of start, and I was like, if I'm introducing myself to people who don't know me, I prefer that they, know me from the very start, the very beginning.
mm.
Yeah.
Did you go to art school? Is that where you went?
Yeah. At first, I studied graphic design, and after
Okay.
that, after the first year, I changed to an art school to study illustration.
And did you think being in that environment was really like, did it make just being yourself much easier?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Everything. I feel like people accepted me more than I accepted myself back at the
Huh.
time. Yeah.
Interesting.
How about
Because
you?
yeah, well, that's just the thing. I went to a university before. I went to
Mhm.
art college. I went to the college is called Ontario College of Art and Design. It's called
Okay.
OCAD, the abbreviation. And but before that, I went to a university where I studied fine art, but well, that's another story. But in any case, the university that I went to wasn't downtown. It wasn't in the city center. It was actually in the suburbs. And so when I went to the art college, which was downtown Toronto, the people were very different. The school was very different, like, kind of stereotypical art college.
Yeah.
It's filled with people who maybe in high school felt really sort of stood out in ways that, weren't necessarily popular.
Yeah.
And, art school was this kind of place that you could go to where you could really, find people who felt and, or could have conversations with people about things that maybe, you never could in, high school, or in my case, like high school. And so, art college really allowed me to, gave me space to, and time to, learn, who I was becoming at that time.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I feel like it was another safe space, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's super, 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 safe. Because there were, so many, I guess, versions of who I was, I think, in art college. And also, I think, as artists, as art students, just the nature of the kind of work that we do. And in my case, I've always I've always told stories through my work. And I think being art college allowed me to do it in a deeper way. Just to express parts of myself that I probably couldn't do if I was, because, and I was going to say studying something else, because what I was planning to study when I wasn't sure that I could make it as an illustrator was to go into business, because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to make it as an artist. And so business was something that I was considering doing. And I don't know if I know for a fact. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Really, I wish people would know what acceptance means. It can mean the world to someone.
Yeah. And even, as like about acceptance too, as I mentioned in my intro, I also teach illustration at the School of Visual Arts. One of the things that is really important to me as an instructor, even though I teach illustration and drawing, is to be really upfront about the fact that, if the students want to express or talk about or share, opinions about things that might make a lot of people feel uncomfortable, like their sexuality through their work, or even, certain content that might, maybe feel provocative. I encourage them to do it, because I think it's really important, especially as an artist, to really investigate these parts of yourself. And so as a teacher, I put my sexuality in the foreground. Everybody knows that I'm gay. I'm very open in terms of, the kind of information that I share. Obviously, I have boundaries, but at the same time, like, I think it's really important, that the students know that there's no shame in mental health and mental wellness, expressing, parts of themselves that maybe, they have been told not to, that's what I love, about art school. And I try to really take that part of my job seriously.
That's amazing. That's what makes a reference. Yeah. Just like the ones we're drawing. Hey, by the way, I want to take a look at the comments just to see if there is having questions about the techniques or something like that, or just maybe I just want to let people know that they can ask. I mean, we're talking and I'm loving it, and maybe we should keep going with this conversation even after this live. But I feel like, hey, there's a
Carlos, it's almost 1 o'clock. It's almost an hour.
yeah, it's been so fast. Maybe we can keep going for a little bit more, and we leave it at some point. But there is a question for you. I think.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, they say, Marcos, have you ever tried watercolors? And Carlos, any digital technique? Well, you start.
Have I ever tried watercolors? Yes, I do. It's not my material of choice, but what I do is I incorporate watercolor on top of. So what you're seeing right now is all vectors. What I'll
Mhm.
do after this is I will scan, make some watercolor textures on paper, and then scan it and place it on top of this drawing to give it a little bit of warmth. But
Yeah.
my watercolor technique is nothing like yours. Yours is like, yeah,
Then
at
you
like
should
a different level. It's like way,
thank you.
yeah.
But you should see me trying on Illustrator.
Right.
No, I,
Okay.
I really suck on on Illustrator and digital techniques. I feel like, well, I think I'm good at Photoshop because in the end I have to edit like everything I do. I have to edit it,
Uh-huh.
but I've never started, or it's been a long time that I don't started drawing just in the computer. And I think, oof, I don't think I would be really good at it.
No, yeah. So it's funny. I think maybe for us, we're kind of doing use each other's materials in the same way. So you use the computer to edit, and I use watercolor, not necessarily to edit, but just to enhance it a little bit
Yeah,
in
well,
the
that's
end.
really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny.
Hadn't, yeah, I hadn't thought about it this way. Oh, I'm struggling with the legs of the spider. My God, I was I was gonna add more legs than it has. Honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna finish the whole thing either, but I'm just gonna try to go with at least the spiders and
Hmm.
um, maybe one of the flowers, and try to work on the skin textures. Because the skin textures usually take a bit for me, and it's my
Okay.
favorite part. Yeah, so maybe I'll
Are you
just
working wet on wet, or like how are you getting the softness of the skin right now?
so you've tried watercolor, I can see.
Yes, I've tried watercolor, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, I
so
have my browser open right now to how to paint watercolor page, so I'm just asking questions from
yeah.
that.
Well, it's a very good question, because what is the most difficult thing to do in watercolor? And in my case, I mix wet and wet uh, with just dry. I saw. Sorry, I started with the eyes on dry
Yeah.
over dry, and then for the skin, I make the paper wet and then add the color.
Oh,
It depends on the skin, because, for example, if it's an old skin, I can play with the brush strokes. But in this case, I'm portraying her when she was young, and uh,
mm.
it's a very soft skin, and this texture, it's easier on wet.
And are you using you're not using a blow dryer or anything. You're just allowing it to dry
Yeah,
naturally, right? Oh, okay.
absolutely. I think that's I really like to let it dry at its own pace,
Okay.
because I feel like when you watch the paper dry, and you see how the pigment expands and everything, you really learn what's going on with the pigment and the paper. So,
Okay.
yeah, observing. I mean, it's not that you have to stare at the drawing as it dries, but you just make
Okay.
another part, and take a look at what it's wet. That's what I do.
Right.
Yeah. So now I see that you're using, like, sorry, I don't know the word, but it's like different shades of the same color on the lips, right? Like, to add some.
Yeah, so this is a new thing for me. So being self-taught. So the
Okay.
best way that I learn how to do anything is I actually have to do it when I need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not someone who can take a class, learn a lot of different techniques, and then remember it. How I remember it is I have to learn how to do it. And so what you're seeing now is the gradient map tool. And
Yeah.
I really love it. It is, I'll pull it out, but it's this gradient tool. It's called a freeform gradient. And I love it because
Yeah.
it allows you to create three-dimensionality and volume to a flat shape. And so I do that sort of sparingly in my work. Yeah, again, just to give it, more volume.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
love lips. I love lip gloss.
yeah.
So that's like the perfect spot to put it.
I mean, can you tell?
Yes, I know. Well, that's the thing. So essentially what I'm doing is trying to get, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, by the way, you just said you are self-taught. You learned illustration.
Using Adobe Illustrator, yeah.
Oh, well, my you have all of my admiration.
Oh,
I think it's the hardest program in the world.
it is. But like when I learned it, when I
Mhm.
was learning how to use it, so I was trained, in art school formally as a painter. So I didn't do watercolor. I mostly used acrylic, and I used some oils with acrylic. And so when I started using Adobe Illustrator, I didn't use any sort of opaque colors. I would use translucent colors and apply the colors like a painter would.
Yeah,
So that's how I began using the program. But now I do it differently.
that's really interesting that you could transfer something of that technique, to the digital.
And so now
Yeah.
what you're seeing, the way that I work now, I'm thinking of it in a way that a silk screener or a printmaker thinks now. So that's how
Oh,
I work. Yeah,
yeah, okay.
it's changed. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Hey, Marcos, there's another question for you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Do you always work with Illustrator? Do you work with Photoshop or Procreate as well? Yes, 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 and yes. So Illustrator is my main, it's the foundation of the image. I'll just zoom out so you can see it. So once I build, in this case, RuPaul up to a certain level, then I'll export. And you can see here as well, there's a bunch of layers. I don't want to move
Mhm.
my camera too much because it's very precarious right now, but I export all of these layers into Photoshop and then save it as a PSD layered file
Mhm.
because I like to put handmade textures on the different layers
Mhm.
in order to turn this vector drawing into something that feels a bit softer. And then I also bring it into Procreate after Photoshop, and I draw on top of it with different brushes or drawing utensils.
Mhm.
So yeah, I use them all.
Wow. Multitasking.
Multitasking, yeah.
That's amazing. Well, now I'm gonna tell you something about the thing I'm gonna do now, because this is
Okay,
one of my favorite parts of the drawing. I usually do it at the end, but I'm gonna do it now just in case we run out of time. So
okay,
my students, they call it the final layer of death, because it's like once you have this, you have to paint
okay.
other, because as you see, there's you can see the details, and you can see like the eyes, the lips, everything has like a its own texture, but there is no skin. So the thing is that I like to add this layer at the end, when I
Mm,
have all the details and shadows already presented on the paper. I add this skin to make it to make it more smooth, and then to emphasize the shadows. So I'm gonna do it right now, and I'm scared.
whoa.
Because it's always like a win or lose thing. Like,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
But have you ever come to a point where when you do that, you have to start all over again?
If I have to start all over again, well, maybe I just go with Photoshop. Like if I ruin it,
Okay.
go with
Right.
Photoshop. Yeah,
Right.
but it takes time, because you can ruin it, and it's happened to me that I have the drawing just on the point that I want to have it, and then I ruin it in the last part. But there's this thing about watercolor. I don't know if it's happened to you, but which is I think this is something that computer makes it easier in this way, because you see the colors as they're gonna look in the final result. In watercolor, once you
Yeah.
color on the paper, it loses saturation, it loses intensity. So yeah, it's kind of difficult in that sense. But yeah, we'll see.
Cool. So if you're going to do that, then maybe I'm going to see this as kind of like a cooking show, just based on like the last question. Like, do I use anything other than Adobe Illustrator? What I think might be interesting is to show how I add texture onto So maybe I'll do that. So I'll close out here. So essentially, what I was doing in the background just now was just saving this as an EPS. It's just how I've chosen to do it. And once I open it in Photoshop, let's see, where is it?
Okay.
Then I can start adding the textures.
Wow, I think that's you mentioned it, that it's part of your process, and I think it's one of the most interesting stuff. So yeah, I'd love to see that. It already looks real fun. Like, I love the colors. I don't know. Do you work with the same color palette, or you change?
I change. I usually have a comfortable color palette, but I pretty much change.
Okay.
My comfortable color palette is usually like I usually like to have like a minimal color palette. So it would be like maybe 2 colors that are the same temperature that I use a lot of. And then the third color is the opposite temperature. And that would be like a spot color, or kind of like a highlight. Yeah.
I really like that your palette is very like, I don't know, the colors are very alive, but there's also points where they are not too saturated. And I mean, that's something I try to look for in my illustrations too. So yeah.
But also the reason why is because I actually I adjust the color to make it look less saturated.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really tone it down. But what you're seeing right now is, for example, this is some textures that I have. This is charcoal. I also have like a whole, folder filled with different textures that you can see. I'm just scrolling through them. And I just
yourself?
Yeah, I grab them. Yeah, I do them myself.
Wow, nice.
So this is my watercolor texture here.
Wow, great. That's beautiful.
And so I'm gonna I'll just work on this. Sorry.
Wait, I think there's a question for the both of us. How do you get inspired? Do you use a reference image, or you draw from memory? What do you say?
You answer first.
I answer. Okay. So I usually take a picture as a reference, especially for the work I post or the work I do for social media, because usually I work with I mean, it's celebrity portraits, so I need to have a reference to get the look and everything. But that teaches you a lot, because in the end, when you want to draw without it, you realize that you remember how to do this stuff. But I usually take a reference first. Yeah. How about you?
I also use a lot of references, but in terms of inspiration, I think it really depends on what the topic is. So, because I do a lot of editorial, like stories and that, like stories, for example. I try to. It's really hard, but I try. I try to use, if there's things about that I like to draw. I try to put it into the illustrations that I'm making. So it sounds like I don't know if I'm answering the question properly, but I like to not just go online and look for inspiration of things that actually move me or interest me, but I also, if I read a story that I have to do an illustration for, I try to see if there's anything about it that connects with me or that I connect with. And then I sort of try to bring that into the process.
That is a beautiful tip for loving what you do. I mean, because when you bring it to your interest, you make it better.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard. It doesn't always work, but I try.
Yeah.
I try to.
Yeah, I feel very identified with what you said, because that's also something I try to do to survive. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what I did here is, you can barely see it, but what I did end up doing is I added some textures onto the vector file, and it just gives it a little bit of softness. And
Yeah.
then sometimes what I like to do too is I'll just bring in, this is from another file. This is actually the watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll bring it in, and then, oh, I think I'm having a low power mode moment on my phone. I thought it
Oh.
was fully charged. Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. We're gonna finish. Like, I'm gonna finish this, and then maybe we can say goodbye. You don't have to worry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We've been talking and drawing for an hour. I think people just had enough of us. We've been too much, but
Yeah,
honestly,
I
it's
think
been.
my sorry. No, I cut you
Oh,
off.
no, you're fine. I felt like it was like chatting with a friend, and
Yes, me
and
too.
and I had such a great time. But thank God I decided to do this layer before your phone dies. Well,
It's
as you see,
amazing. It's giving her so much shape.
thank you. That's what I try to do with it. Like, it brings a lot of volume to the drawing. And now I'm gonna finish this skin. Like, it makes it glow. Like, you work on the shines of the skin, and you work on the texture, and it makes it really pop from the paper. So
Cool.
it's
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you. It's a very scary part of the process, I must admit, even for me, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
So while you're doing that, I just want to give a reminder shout out to everyone who's here,
Mhm.
that we have an action on the Domestika forum. So if you want to pay tribute to your favorite LGBTQ plus icon, you can, and you can hashtag it with Create with Pride, and upload it.
Yeah, well, wow. Thanks for
Sorry, I was just like,
that's yes. Are you participating? Well, we are actually.
we are. I kind of like fast forwarded, my process, but I'm gonna have to go back into Illustrator and really finish her.
Yeah,
But
me
I just
too.
want to show this part of the process.
Me
But I'm
too.
gonna go back into Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah, I feel like we have a lot of work to do still, but at least this is
Yes.
a good start for the people to know more of our process. And also, you guys know, we have courses on Domestika, and you can find more about our work on our social media, and join our courses if you wanna learn more about the technique.
Yeah, mine is about color composition and creativity. And you can see what I'm doing right now is basically what you'll be seeing in the course, except it's going to be much more detailed. Um, and I do want to apologize for those students who have taken my course, and I still have to reply to some of you. So stay tuned.
Yeah, me too. But so yeah, let's do it when we finish this, or when we have time. But we always get back to the people as much as we can. Sometimes it's busy times, but we we try to reply as much as we can.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So when are you
So
coming to New York, Carlos?
well, this summer I'm allowed to travel. Once I get vaccinated, I want to go everywhere.
You're right.
Actually, it's been a couple years that I don't see New York, and I've had such a blast every time I've been
Uh-huh.
there. So I can wait to come back. When are you coming back to
Nice.
Spain?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but hopefully sometime next year if I'm going to be in Europe. We'll see how things go, right?
Yeah. So if you ever come to Spain, let me know.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I love Madrid.
Yeah, it's a very fun city, and I love New York. So we're gonna meet eventually.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, Marcos. So whenever you're ready, I think I came to a point where it's, yeah, I can leave it here and maybe take it later. So whenever you're ready, I can keep working.
Wow. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to do this sort of outside of the recording, but you work so quickly.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to.
Amazing.
It's all
Amazing.
about survival. Thank you.
Cool.
Your RuPaul looks amazing. I love the expression. I feel like it's very her, but also like the shapes are so you use very simple shapes, like
yes,
symmetry.
I do.
It's beautiful, and that's
thank you.
I feel that's even harder than being like taking a direct reference from the picture. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, yours is too. And I'm definitely gonna watch the bio pic that you talked about. So
please, you're gonna call me crying. I know.
Okay. Cool.
Well, it's been such a great life with you, Marcos. I had so much fun, and
yeah,
and I really hope we can do this again sometime in the future.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and thank you everyone for coming too. This was amazing. I had fun. Yeah, it felt like we were just like hanging out. So
that's true. Yeah. So yeah, I can wait to see your illustration, and yeah, let's keep me posted about how it turns out.
Okay, you too. I'll see you.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
La idea es como algo muy frágil.
Se me fue la hebra.
I'm going to show you some examples. This is what we've got behind me.
¿Qué más preguntas tengo por aquí? ¿Cómo descubriste que lo tuyo